In the era of Pixel Slates and Pixelbooks and fancy detachable Chromebooks, you'd be forgiven for forgetting all about the low end of the Chromebook market, the affordable Chromebooks, the ones that are $200 and $300. But we can't forget them because ultimately what's really driving Chromebook sales still to this day is the education sector, and schools that have to buy Chromebooks in mass volumes, hundreds and thousands even sometimes in a single purchase. They're going to be very concerned with how much a Chromebook costs, and they're not going to go buy a $600 or $700 Chromebook 100 or 200 or 500 times for students just to beat the snot out of. And so manufacturers continually have to make decent Chromebooks for very little money. And so we want to talk about two of those that are on offer right now. And one is really at the far end of the affordability scale, and that is the Asus Chromebook C 223. And then you have Acer's Chromebook Flip 11, which does come in an education model. The one we have is the consumer model of the exact same Chromebook. And we're going to take a look at both of these devices and just kind of see what they bring to the table for such a little amount of money. So the first one we want to talk about is the Asus C 223. And Asus sent this over not too long ago, and it just went on sale, I want to say 2 months ago. And it's the one we got is kind of interesting. It's red, as you can see, and it's pretty cool looking, and it's really light. But really, neither one of these devices is too much different than any other Apollo Lake device that we've seen. And we haven't reviewed a ton of them because they kind of all feel the same. And that's kind of the case with this Asus. Now, the big reason that we want to talk about this one is because of its price. I mean, it's $230 brand new right now if you go to Best Buy. And I'm sure you'll probably be able to find it on sale, and I'm sure education markets that are buying it in volume are getting it even cheaper than that. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't come across in the use of this device. It's got an okay keyboard and an okay trackpad, and it's kind of flimsy and has big bezels, and there's no touch screen, and it's just a clamshell, but it's light. And it's cheap. It's running the Apollo Lake 3350, so it's a dual core processor, 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage. You've heard all of this stuff before. The ports are kind of exactly what you'd expect. A couple USB-A's, a USB-C, and an SD card slot. None of this is surprising. It's all kind of the same stuff. The only place where the Asus falls apart for me is the display. It's honestly the worst display I've seen on a Chromebook since the Acer C720, which was one of the first Chromebooks, honestly. And it is a super cheap panel, so cheap that it, even at 11.6 inches, 1366 by 768, I couldn't find an angle where it all looked the same color if you were viewing just like a solid color or something. So if it was all white or all black on the screen, there was no angle I could get the device to see the entire screen at the same color. The viewing angles are that narrow. You literally can't see everything the right way in one viewing. And while that's a turnoff to general consumers or someone that's going to go spend a few $100s on a Chromebook, when we start talking about education devices, or you start talking about having your kids around the house and you just want to give them a beater device that they can, beat up and you're not really worried about it, this kind of works. It's light, it's super portable. You're going to get that nice 8-9 hour battery life out of it. And honestly, kids don't really care that much about the screen. And so it gets the job done. It moves around as fast as any other Apollo Lake device does. And especially in the red color, it actually kind of looks cool doing it. So the second device we're talking about is the Acer Chromebook Spin 11. So there's actually a version of this for the education market that's got kind of the bumpers and stuff like that on it. This one's actually the consumer version of the exact same device. Same internals here, 3350 Apollo Lake, 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage, same port selection, all the same stuff, again, that we've seen countless times on Chromebooks, but this one brings a couple other things to the table, and it's reflected in the price a little bit. So this one's about $380 right now, and so again, you're gonna see sales and that kind of stuff on these, and so you may get it for $350, $340, maybe even down to like $325 or something like that, and there's not a ton of Chromebooks in that price range that bring this much to the table. It's not the best performer. It doesn't move along any faster than any other Apollo Lake Chromebook, so you're not going to get a ton of speed out of the thing. But what it does bring to the table are a couple unique things for a device in this price range. So one, it's convertible, so you can flip it all the way around into tablet mode. Now, don't think it's going to replace the tablet. It's super chunky, and it's heavy, and it's 11.6 inch, 16 by 9, 1366 by 768 display. However, it is an IPS display, so the viewing angles are pretty good. In general, the colors aren't that bad. It's a little grainy because it's a low resolution device, and the bezels are pretty huge. But it also comes with this guy in the box. In most places you get it actually comes with a little case too. So there's a couple little extras you get in there. But it's a full size, like feels like a pencil stylus. And it works, it's EMR, it works with any EMR equipped stylus Chromebook, so any of the Samsung devices or anything that has a garage stylus is going to work with this pen. And it inks pretty well, feels pretty good. The only times it doesn't is when it's lagging a little bit because the processor's not that fast. But if you look at this compared to what's on offer from Asus, you get a little bit better typing experience, a little bit better trackpad, a much better screen. You get a convertible form factor, and you get a pen in the box. And so there are some additions here. Internally, speed-wise, resolution-wise, same exact device, same baseboard. But here you get a 360, you get a pen, you get some extra stuff in there for your price. It's still affordable. It's still cheaper than most any other thing that you can get your hands on, and you're gonna feel that, you're gonna see that in the way it looks, but it kind of looks unique. It's not an ugly device, and so for the price, it's pretty decent. So in the end, specs and form factors and all that kind of stuff, it all comes down to, should you purchase one of these things? And interestingly enough, when we talk about purchasing decisions, when we're talking at the high end, it's easier to really break things down and decide this is good and this is bad and this works and this doesn't, and for you and for you and for you, this would be good and this would be bad, all that kind of stuff when it's expensive. But when it's cheap, it's just a different conversation because it's not that much money, and so we can just overlook so many things. So with the Asus and its terrible screen, it's not that hard to overlook it at 230 bucks. Granted, with the Acer, with the Spin, you get up into a little bit more money, and so you start thinking, well, is this really worth buying? Especially when devices like Asus's very fantastic C302 is available for about 100 bucks more. For about the same price, you can get a hold of the Acer R13, which is an ARM-powered convertible device. It doesn't have pen input. The R11 from Acer is $100 cheaper. Same screen pretty much, keyboard, typing, all that stuff. 360 just doesn't have pen input, so is $100 worth pen input? There's some interesting questions that surround those things, but you also have to ask yourself who you would be buying this thing for. If you're not an educator and you're just looking for a cheap Chromebook, how cheap are you willing to go? How much are you willing to sacrifice, and are you okay with a terrible screen or a terrible keyboard if it's just a device that a 5 or 6 year old is going to be looking at ABC Mouse or Disney Channel or watching some YouTube videos on? Those questions I can't answer for you, but I can tell you at their respective price points, both of these devices are pretty good buys, to be honest with you. I would have a little bit harder time spending money on the Chromebook Spin at this point because some of the older, better devices are coming down in price, and some of the ones that are below it, like I said, the R11, are so much lower in price at $100 less. I don't know that missing the stylus input would be that big of a deal to get a very comparable device. So hopefully, guys, this has helped you make a purchasing decision on one of these things. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and until next time, we'll see you.